Good morning, everyone. My name is Jania. Welcome, and thank you for following me on this journey, the grace to start over. It has been a beautiful journey. It's been crazy. But God is so true when He says that He works all things together for our good, all things, even the ugly things, the hidden things, the shameful things. He works all things together for our good, and I am what's the word? I am a witness to that. I have experienced that firsthand from even 4 years ago till today. Shoot, from even last year until where I am today. He takes all things and works it for our good. Today, I just wanted to come on and encourage you. And literally, this is probably my fifth or sixth time trying to do this darn video. And either I'm interrupted or my phone cuts off. I'm like, really? Really? Anyway. So when I was going to do this, like I said, I started this Grace Moments journey a long time ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and then I stopped. And so when I was ready to come back on, or when I felt God leading me to come back on, I was excited. You know how we are when God calls us, like, oh yes, God, pour it out, use me, here I am, send me, I'll go, right? And then like 2 days later, I was like, never mind. I didn't want to do this anymore. I felt intimidated. I felt discouraged. I was discouraged because my writing wasn't like Sister So-and-so's, or my page wasn't like hers. And I'm like, wait, she has a lot of followers, and God, you've really done a lot in her life, and are you sure you want to use me? Are you sure that I'm qualified to do this? Am I capable of doing this? Are you sure that now is the right time? And He's like, absolutely, yes, I'm sure. And what I didn't recognize at that moment was that I've been listening to the enemy. You see, Satan, the enemy, is what I call him. His purpose is to steal, kill, and destroy. To steal, kill, and destroy. I don't know why I'm saying that funny today. Whatever. That's his goal. That's what it tells us in the book of John. And he does that often through intimidation. He does that through manipulation, through control, through fear, through all of these things. And they often present themselves as thoughts. So if we're not careful, they sound like our thoughts, but they're not our thoughts. And it's not coming from God. I just saw a Facebook quote. It's like, if you feel unworthy or undeserving or unloved, trust me, those thoughts aren't coming from God. They're not coming from your Heavenly Father. I can assure you that they're not. And so what happens is what happens to Simba, which I love because God has shown me so much through the Lion King movie. Google it if you never watched it. But in the movie, Simba was the one true heir. He was the son to the king. So that means he was next in line to become king. It was his birthright. It was his destiny. It was his portion. It was his inheritance. Everyone knew it. Everyone knew it. Even his enemy knew it, Scar. Scar knew that Simba, the only way that Simba was not going to become king is if Scar took him out. And so Scar began to put a plan into motion to take Simba out. Young Simba, he's a baby, he's a cub. He doesn't even recognize the potential that he has. But Scar recognized, oh my gosh, Scar recognized the potential that he had. Scar recognized the calling on Simba's life, if you will. I know I'm getting a little deep for the Lion King, but just hear me out. He recognized it, and he set a plan in motion to destroy it. And the same thing that happens to Simba often happens to you and I. When we are young, we are vulnerable. We are susceptible. We are believe things easily, right? We can be naive. And so the same thing that Scar does, the enemy, our adversary, Satan, does to us, I believe, when we are younger. He begins to attack. He sees the calling. He sees the potential. And so what does he do? He often attacks us in that same area. You see, Simba was already, Mufasa had been training Simba. Mufasa had been raising Simba. Everything Simba needed, Mufasa, his father, made sure he had. Same with you and I today. Everything that we need to be successful, everything we need to walk in our destiny, to use our gifts, our callings, our passions, we have on the inside of us because our daddy put it there. He don't make junk. He put it there. He placed it there. We have this treasure in earthen vessels, the Bible tells us. So everything we have, we need. And the enemy knows that he can't take that from us. So what does he do? He tries to trick us. He deceives us. He uses the same tactics that Scar did, intimidate us to make us back down from our rightful places. What does that sound like? Maybe it sounds like, and I might have shared this before, I'm not good enough. For me, it was, I'm not qualified enough. I'm not ready. I'm not this enough. I don't have this credential. You know, I'm looking at myself, and I totally miss God's calling. I'm looking at my limitations, and I totally miss God's ability. He's a limitless God. And so when we put our eyes on ourselves, we fall short, absolutely. But when I begin to put my eyes on my Father, I'm reminded of who I am. So it came a time in Simba's journey when the prophet, the little bird, Rafiki, had to come tell him, Simba, it's time. It is time. And as soon as Simba got into alignment, into agreement, I believe, Mufasa's voice came from the sky. He says, my son, Simba, That's what he says. I would yell it, but I'm in my office. He says, Simba, remember who you are. And that is the same reassurance that God gave me. Jania, remember who you are. I was acting like Gideon. Gideon was a mighty warrior. That's who God created him to be. But when Gideon was only focused on himself, he was like, wow, well, my family isn't much, and I'm not much, and this area that we're living in isn't much. And God, have you seen how we've been oppressed? My people are going through, and you really calling me this? Where you been at, God? That's how I take it. Gideon was like, where you been? I know you've done this in the past, but where have you been for me? And God shows up and says, hey, come on. Mighty warrior, go in the strength that I gave you. Go in the strength that you have. I'm going to answer that question through you, Gideon. And so we can be like Gideons. We can be like Simbas. We can even be like elephants. That's another story for another day. Elephants whose legs are tied and bound by a small rope. They don't know how powerful they are because they're still stuck in the lies. They're still stuck in the beliefs and in the mindsets that they had when they were children. But God says no more. You are a beautiful, powerful woman of God. I'm talking to you and everyone watching this video today. You are powerful. You are beautiful. You are creative. You are anointed. You are called. You are ordained before God placed you in your mother's womb. He had a purpose for you. He chose you specifically to be who you are today. In fact, Harriet Tubman said something like, I could have freed 1,000 more slaves if only they knew they were slaves. And I feel like God is saying that to so many of us today. He's here. Freedom is ours. The Bible tells us that it is finished. He came to destroy the works of Satan, and